the first attack came without warning. Humanity had long been accustomed to the threat of alien species lurking in the vast, uncaring cosmos. The Earth had endured countless wars, skirmishes, and conflicts, but none had prepared them for what was to come. The universe, vast and unknowable, had always seemed like a place where humanity was small, insignificant. But in one fateful moment, that illusion shattered. The sky turned dark as the first alien ship entered Earth's orbit. Massive and imposing, it was like a shadow descending from the stars, blotting out the sun. Within hours, the entire planet was on high alert, military forces scrambling to prepare for what they could not yet understand. The governments of Earth had made one fatal mistake: they assumed the alien ships were a warning, not a declaration of war. It wasn't until the skies burned and the first cities fell that humanity realized they were wrong. But what made this attack different wasn't the sheer force of the invaders, it was the overwhelming number of enemies. The alien fleet wasn't one ship or a small armada, it was the united might of the galaxy's most powerful empires, joined together in a single, unrelenting assault on Earth. The Vroni, with their impenetrable shields and terrifying weaponry, the Zethar, who could manipulate the very fabric of time, and the brutal Krag, whose sheer physical strength could reduce entire cities to rubble. Humanity, however, didn't cower. They didn't submit. The very same night the invaders arrived, Earth's leaders made a decision that would go down in history as the moment that humanity stopped being a passive player in the galactic stage. They had no choice but to act, but humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its technology, or its alliances, or its power, it was something else entirely. Humanity had something the galaxy's most powerful empires lacked: a heart. In the face of annihilation, the human spirit burned brighter than ever. Cities were destroyed, but humanity did not falter. Earth's military leaders made the impossible decision to counterattack. But no one could have anticipated how far humanity was willing to go, or how quickly they would adapt. On the ground, General Sarah Hunter stood in the wreckage of New York City, overseeing the chaos. The sky was thick with the alien ships, blotting out the stars and the moon. The ground trembled beneath her feet as alien war machines marched through the streets, laying waste to everything in their path. But Sarah, her uniform torn and bloodied from battle, had a singular thought on her mind: we're not losing this. Her eyes met the eyes of her fellow soldiers, who were also battered but unbroken. They had lost entire fleets in the first wave of attacks, but there was something in the way they held their ground that no alien force had ever encountered. The human determination was unmatched. No matter how fierce the alien empires had united to destroy them, they didn't understand what it meant to fight for something larger than themselves. "General," one of her officers said, his voice urgent. "We've got another fleet coming in, this time, the Zethar. We can't stop them with the resources we have left. They can manipulate time. Time itself, Sarah. We're outmatched." Sarah turned her gaze to the horizon, where the ominous glow of the approaching fleet loomed larger by the second. She didn't respond immediately. She didn't need to. Every soldier under her command knew that in times like this, words were unnecessary. What they needed was action. "I'll give you something to buy time," Sarah said, her voice firm. "Prepare the experimental weapon. Now." It was a desperate move, and they all knew it. The weapon was humanity's last-ditch effort to turn the tide. It had been developed in secret, under the radar of alien surveillance, with the understanding that if Earth's survival was ever truly threatened, they would need an answer that could alter the balance of power. The weapon was designed to be humanity's greatest weapon of all. It wasn't just a bomb, a weapon of mass destruction, or a piece of advanced technology. It was a tactical gambit, a fight against the very fabric of reality itself. If it worked, it would cripple the alien invaders. If it didn't, they were all dead. And just as she turned to leave, a voice called out from behind her. "General, we've got incoming transmission." Sarah turned back, the urgency in the voice sparking a flicker of hope. "It's from the Coalition," the officer said, his face lighting up with disbelief. "The Zorathians. They're offering an alliance." Sarah's eyes narrowed. The Zorathians were one of the most feared species in the galaxy, a race of beings who had conquered entire star systems. They were known for their brutality and indifference to other races, their motives murky at best. But if they were offering to help humanity, it meant something was happening on a larger scale, something that would alter the entire balance of power. "Put them through," Sarah ordered. The holographic image flickered to life in front of her, and a towering Zorathian appeared. His blue, scaled face was as cold and calculating as ever. "General Hunter," the Zorathian said in a deep, resonant voice. "You may not trust us, but our enemies have become your enemies. The alien empires, united against you, have made a grave mistake. They have underestimated your species, and we will help you make them regret it." Sarah's heart raced. "Why would you help us?" she asked, her voice steady, though every fiber of her being screamed with disbelief. The Zorathian's expression remained unchanged. "Because, General, there is nothing more dangerous in the galaxy than a species that has nothing left to lose. Humanity's will to fight has become the most potent weapon we've ever seen. And in the face of annihilation, you have turned the tables on us all." The Zorathian's message had barely finished before the situation on Earth escalated. The alien fleets loomed ever larger, each one a symbol of the Galactic Empire's united force, poised to destroy the planet. But now, with the unexpected help of the Zorathians, General Sarah Hunter's resolve solidified. It was time for humanity to stop running. It was time to fight like they had never fought before. "General," one of Sarah's officers said, her voice trembling but filled with determination. "The Zorathians, they've provided us with access to their technology. We can use it to turn the tide." Sarah, still in disbelief, turned toward the officer. "What kind of technology are we talking about?" "Their fleet," the officer said, eyes wide with excitement. "We can use their warships as a tactical advantage. They've equipped us with their most advanced weapons, hypervelocity missiles, gravity-bending cannons, and shields that can withstand even the most brutal assaults. If we deploy this correctly, we can hit the invaders where it hurts." Sarah felt a surge of hope, but she knew better than to get complacent. The Zorathians weren't known for their kindness. There was a price for everything, and this alliance, if it could even be called that, was no different. "We can't rely on them for long," Sarah said, her voice steady and full of authority. "We need to make our move fast, before they decide to pull back or turn on us. Get those ships ready for deployment." A series of holographic maps flickered to life on the command deck as Sarah and her officers began formulating a plan. The Zorathians had offered their help, but they hadn't exactly been clear on why. There was something about this that didn't sit right with Sarah. The way the Zorathian ambassador had spoken, it felt like they were merely using humanity as a pawn in a larger, more dangerous game. But at this point, she had no choice but to play along. Earth's survival depended on it. "General, we're ready," the officer said. "We've prepped our fleet for launch. We've got a small window before the enemy arrives with reinforcements. It's now or never." Sarah nodded. "Send the signal. All units are to engage with full force." As the command was given, Earth's fleet, which had been battered and weakened in the early days of the war, came alive. Military stations in orbit, hastily repaired fighter crafts, and now, with the added might of the Zorathian warships, Earth had an arsenal like never before. The first wave of fighters took to the skies, launching from Earth's remaining military stations and preparing for battle. Their target was the front line of the alien fleets. The fleets were massive, more than enough to obliterate Earth in a matter of hours, but humanity's resistance had already made the invaders reconsider their assumptions. The Zorathians had equipped Sarah's forces with technology that could rival the best of the galaxy's most advanced races, but it was humanity's ability to adapt, to improvise, and to fight with relentless tenacity that would turn the tide. All ships engaged. "General, we're launching the first wave now," the officer reported. "We're moving out." Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She knew the risks. This wasn't going to be an easy fight, not by a long shot. But there was no going back. Humanity had already been backed into a corner, and the only way out was to fight their way through. Outside the atmosphere, Earth's fleet gathered in formation, ready for the impending conflict. The first wave of fighters, small but nimble, darted toward the alien armada, their engines roaring as they charged into battle. Earth's warships, with their Zorathian enhancements, unleashed a barrage of hypervelocity missiles that tore through the alien ships, lighting up the vastness of space with explosions that shook the stars themselves. The invaders were taken off guard. They had underestimated humanity's resolve, and now, for the first time since the invasion began, the tide was starting to shift. Earth's fleet fought with everything they had, using every ounce of the technology gifted to them, and more importantly, they fought with the heart of a species that had never known how to give up. But as the first few waves of invaders were pushed back, General Sarah Hunter knew this was only the beginning. The alien fleets were vast, so vast that even with the Zorathians' help, Earth would not stand a chance in the long run. Sarah glanced toward the holographic map, watching the incoming reinforcements. "We're not out of the woods yet," she muttered to herself, taking a deep breath. "They're bringing in everything they've got." She glanced over at her officers, who were focused and determined. "Prepare for Phase 2, Sarah ordered. "We've got one shot to break their formation. Once we do, we go for their flagship. If we can destroy it, we'll break their morale. They'll retreat." The tension was palpable as the fleet began to rearrange. The first wave had proven successful, but now they had to go deeper, into the heart of the enemy fleet. The time had come for humanity to show the galaxy what it had overlooked, the raw, unstoppable will to survive. As Earth's fleet engaged in the second wave, a dark shadow loomed over them. Another ship, larger than anything they had encountered yet, arrived from the depths of the invaders' armada. The flagship. It was a massive structure, far beyond the capabilities of anything humanity had built. Its black hull gleamed ominously in the distance, and its weapons could obliterate an entire fleet in a single blast. But Sarah's eyes narrowed. She had seen this before, an overwhelming force, one that seemed unbeatable, one that seemed like it would crush everything in its path. And yet, here humanity was, standing in the way of total annihilation. Humanity had never backed down from a fight. And today would be no different. The flagship loomed closer with every passing second, its size dwarfing even the mightiest ships in Earth's fleet. The massive structure was a fortress of technology, a gleaming behemoth that seemed invincible, towering over the chaos that had already engulfed the battlefield. General Sarah Hunter knew that this was their moment, this was where everything would be decided. If they didn't break the flagship's power, the alien forces would crush Earth, no matter how hard humanity fought back. "We've got one shot at this," Sarah said, her voice calm despite the storm of battle surrounding her. "Prepare the final strike." The Zorathians had shared their most powerful weapons with Earth's fleet, energy disruptors capable of tearing through the most advanced shields, gravity bombs that could disable entire ships, and weapons designed to destabilize the flagship systems. But as Sarah watched the map in front of her, she knew there was no room for error. The flagship was heavily protected. One wrong move, and everything they'd worked for would collapse. Her fingers hovered over the command panel, eyes scanning the battlefield as the seconds ticked away. The alien forces were still reeling from the first wave, but they were quickly regrouping. Their ships were slowly reorganizing, preparing to launch an all-out assault. Earth's fleet, though still fighting valiantly, was weakening by the minute. Sarah's thoughts raced. The stakes were higher than ever, and the pressure was suffocating. The entire planet's survival rested on her shoulders, and she couldn't afford to fail. She had to act. "Initiate Phase 3, Sarah barked. "All units, focus fire on the flagship." Her voice rang out across the fleet, and within moments, hundreds of ships shifted formation, locking their sights on the alien flagship. The final strike was set into motion, a combination of coordinated firepower and tactical maneuvering designed to pierce through the alien defenses. The battlefield trembled as the first wave of firepower launched from Earth's fleet. Hypervelocity missiles shot toward the flagship, accompanied by a barrage of energy disruptors. But the flagship's defenses flared to life, energy shields bursting to life in a dazzling display of light. The missiles exploded against the shields with deafening blasts, leaving a trail of debris in their wake, but the shields held strong. "Shields are holding," Sarah muttered. "They're not giving up that easily." The alien flagship's defenses were formidable. As the flagship retaliated with massive energy cannons, Earth's fleet was forced to scatter. The energy blasts that followed sent waves of destruction through the battlefield, obliterating entire ships in seconds. "Increase speed, avoid their fire," Sarah shouted, her heart pounding in her chest. "We need to create an opening." The humans were outmatched in firepower, but they had something the aliens didn't: adaptability. It was humanity's secret weapon, the ability to quickly adapt to changing situations, to think on their feet when all seemed lost. Sarah's eyes flicked back to the holographic display. A new set of coordinates appeared on the map, a weakness in the flagship's defense. The shields were weaker on the lower right quadrant, just beneath its command bridge. It was a small opening, but it was enough. "Prepare the gravity bomb," Sarah ordered. "We're taking out their shields." As the order was relayed through the fleet, the human ships made their move. A group of bombers, their sleek, agile bodies dodging alien fire, darted towards the opening in the flagship's defenses. The gravity bomb, a Zorathian creation, was loaded with the kind of power that could cripple the ship's ability to regenerate its shields, sending it into a state of vulnerability. Sarah watched with bated breath as the bombers neared their target. But the aliens were quick to react. The flagship's point defense cannons locked onto the bombers, sending deadly pulses of energy toward them. "Brace for impact," Sarah shouted as the bombers veered away from the incoming fire. The explosive energy from the flagship's guns tore through the air, shredding a few of the bombers before they had a chance to reach the target. But then, just as hope seemed to slip away, the remaining bombers launched their payloads. The gravity bomb shot forward, piercing through the alien defenses. The moment it struck, a pulse of energy detonated, and the flagship's shields flickered, then collapsed entirely. "Direct hit," one of Sarah's officers shouted, disbelief in their voice. For a moment, everything seemed to pause. The flagship, vulnerable, exposed, was now wide open to Earth's firepower. The calm lasted only a fraction of a second before the next wave of missiles and disruptor blasts rained down on the flagship's exposed core. Earth's ships unleashed everything they had left: lethal, concentrated fire aimed directly at the flagship's heart. The first explosion shook the flagship to its core. The outer hull cracked under the force, and the shields failed completely. The alien forces, stunned by the sudden shift, scrambled to regroup, but it was too late. The barrage continued, ripping through the flagship's vital systems. One by one, the alien ships that had been escorting the flagship broke apart under the relentless assault. For the first time since the invasion began, Earth's forces saw a glimmer of victory. The flagship's command bridge erupted in a massive explosion, sending debris cascading across the battlefield. The massive alien ship, crippled, was now a hulk of its former self. It shuddered and began to break apart, its once impenetrable systems failing in a chaotic display of energy and fire. "We've done it," Sarah whispered, as her hands gripped the console, feeling the weight of the moment. But even as the flagship burned in the distance, Sarah knew this wasn't over. The alien forces were still formidable, and they would not go down without a final stand. Earth's forces had dealt them a blow, but the war was far from won. The cost had been high, and they were not finished yet. "Hold the line," Sarah said, her voice steady. "This is just the beginning." The alien flagship had been reduced to a smoldering wreck, its once pristine hull a twisted mass of scorched metal and energy bursts. The victory should have been complete, but even as Sarah Hunter watched the ruins of the once mighty ship disintegrate in the void, she knew this was just the beginning. The enemy had suffered a massive blow, but they weren't the only ones in this fight, and their war machine was far from dismantled. "General, we're getting reports," one of Sarah's officers called out, his voice strained as he studied the holographic map. "The remaining fleets, they're pulling back." Sarah's heart sank for a moment. The sight of so many enemy ships retreating seemed like victory, but there was something unsettling about it. The alien empires had united against humanity, and while they had lost their flagship, they weren't retreating because they feared Earth's might. No, they were regrouping, preparing for something even more dangerous. They're not retreating. They're recalibrating, Sarah muttered under her breath. They'll come back stronger. We have to finish this. Her words echoed in the command room. The soldiers, despite their victory, knew the truth. The battle was far from over, and it was about to escalate beyond anything they could have imagined. Humanity had earned a brief respite, but the galaxy's most powerful empires weren't going to let one defeat stop them. If anything, it made them more determined to crush the insignificant species that had defied their combined forces. We need a plan, Sarah said, her voice sharp and decisive. We've exposed their vulnerability, and now we need to make them pay. We can't let them regroup. The officers nodded, rallying behind their general as they prepared for the final push. But before they could devise their next move, the communication channels came alive. It was a message from an unexpected source, the Zorathians. The holographic projection flickered to life, and once again, the same blue-scaled Zorathian ambassador appeared, his cold, calculating eyes fixed on Sarah. General Hunter, the Zorathian said, his voice as unyielding as ever. We are aware of your success in neutralizing the flagship. But there is something you must know. The alien empires are not what you think. They were never united in the way you assumed. The fleets that came for Earth were led by the Zeron, an ancient race, far older than anything you've faced. Sarah's blood ran cold. The Zeron. A race of beings said to be so old that they were considered myth. The very idea of their existence had been dismissed by every galactic historian, and yet here they were, leading the charge against Earth. You've dealt with their fleets, but not the Zeron themselves, the Zorathian continued. They were biding their time, watching your resistance, waiting for the right moment. The destruction of the flagship has awakened them. They are preparing something far worse. Sarah felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise. What do you mean by far worse? She demanded. The Zorathian's expression remained unchanged, but his next words sent a chill through the room. The Zeron have the ability to manipulate the very fabric of spacetime. If they succeed in their mission, they will collapse entire sectors of space. Your victory means nothing if you cannot stop them. The reality of the situation began to settle in. The victory that had felt so sweet just moments ago was nothing more than a brief reprieve. The true battle, the one that would decide humanity's fate, was still ahead of them, and the odds were far worse than anything they had faced before. We're not giving up, Sarah said, the words coming out with quiet but resolute force. We've fought too long, too hard. We will face this enemy head-on. The Zorathian seemed to consider her words for a moment, then nodded slowly. Then you will need help, General. The Zeron will stop at nothing, but we, together, may stand a chance. Prepare for what comes next. We will assist you, but you must act fast. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her officers, her mind already whirling with the gravity of the task ahead. They had taken down the flagship, they had broken through the outer defenses of the Galactic Empire. But now they faced something far worse, an enemy capable of warping reality itself, bending time and space to their will. But Sarah didn't hesitate. She had seen the human spirit rise in the face of impossible odds. She had witnessed the unyielding resolve of her soldiers, the creativity and brilliance that came from being backed into a corner with no way out. Humanity had always been underestimated by the galaxy's most powerful races. But that mistake was about to be corrected. We may be small, Sarah said, turning to face her team, but we've already beaten them once. And we'll do it again. The Zeron think they can manipulate time and space, but they've never fought against us. We'll show them just how wrong they are. Earth's fleet readied itself for the final battle, a new wave of humanity's most advanced ships alongside their Zorathian allies. The final push against the Zeron and their twisted manipulation of the universe would begin soon. But this time, it wasn't just about survival, it was about showing the galaxy that humanity would never be crushed. Never be defeated. As Sarah stood on the bridge, watching the final preparations unfold, she felt the weight of history pressing down on her. This was it. The moment that would determine not just humanity's fate, but the fate of the galaxy itself. The universe had underestimated them before. It wouldn't make that mistake again.